You've been told since childhood that danger comes with sharp edges, a knife, a gun, an enemy whose shadow is clear under the sun. You were taught to prepare for open attacks, for the roar that precedes the strike. But the truth, the most devastating wounds are delivered in silence, not with blades, not with fists, but with trust. And the strange thing is, you give that weapon away yourself. Think back for a moment. You've lived through heartbreak, failures, disappointments, even betrayals from friends. But tell me, what pain burns clearest in your memory? Which memory refuses to fade, even after years? It isn't the job you lost. It isn't the argument with a friend. It's the first time someone you trusted with your heart, a woman you believed in completely, shattered that trust. Why does that memory linger when others dissolve into smoke? Because betrayal of trust is not just pain. It is identity shaking. It rewrites who you thought you were. See, here's the paradox. You don't fall into the trap because you're weak. You fall because you believe you're safe. Because you believed the smile, the soft word, the tender look that promised comfort. And at that exact moment of surrender, the game begins. Every word can be a move. Every tear, an invisible weapon. Every embrace, a subtle tightening of chains. And by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already done. Your own trust has become the noose around your neck. Now, let me pause here, because some of you will resist this idea. You'll say, not all women are like this. And you're right. This isn't about universal condemnation. It's about recognizing a truth that society avoids. That blind trust, when handed without question, is the most dangerous gamble a man can play. Why? Because the person you trust most is the one who can reach your most unguarded core. A stranger can punch you, a rival can mock you, but only someone you've welcomed into your soul can destroy you from the inside out. This is why they say intuition is a woman's gift. But let's be brutally honest. It isn't magic. It's strategy. It's the quiet gathering of information, your fears, your cracks, your secrets, piece by piece, like puzzle fragments you don't even realize you're offering. And the terrifying part? You cooperate in your own downfall. Because when someone listens to you deeply, you feel safe. You open up, you confess, you give away the passwords to your heart, thinking it's intimacy, when in reality, it's ammunition. And here's the cruelest twist. When betrayal comes, most men don't even blame her. They blame themselves. I should have seen it. I should have been stronger. That is the brilliance of the trap. You're not only hurt, you're convinced that it's your fault. Have you ever felt it? That eerie chill in the middle of a conversation, as if invisible eyes are dissecting you? As if your emotions are being weighed and measured? That moment when you realize you are not in control. And yet, paradoxically, you accept it. Sometimes you even enjoy it, because there is a strange, intoxicating pleasure in being understood. But that's the paradox. You feel alive at the very moment you are being consumed. Now pause, reflect. Have you ever noticed the difference in betrayal between men and women? When a man betrays, it is noisy, messy, full of cracks and traces. You can catch him in the act. But when a woman betrays, it is silent, so flawless that you doubt yourself. And that is the deadliest poison. Not the betrayal itself, but the doubt it leaves behind. Because when you start doubting your own memory, your own judgment, your own worth, you are no longer fighting her. You are fighting yourself. That's the battlefield you never prepared for. Close your eyes for a moment and remember the promises once whispered to you. I will never hurt you. I'll always be here. I'm different. At the time, those words felt eternal. They wrapped you in warmth, like armor against the world. But how long did that eternity last? Until the day you were no longer useful. Until the moment you stopped being a piece on her chessboard. That's when the door of replacement creaked open. This is the brutal truth no one dares speak aloud. Most promises aren't eternal. They are temporary contracts of interest. And once you stop serving the role she needs you to play, the curtain falls. And yet, no one talks about it. Why? Because lies are easier to swallow than truth. Because it's comforting to believe in forever, even when forever has an expiration date. But understand this. Nothing in the game of affection is coincidence. Every chance moment, every perfectly timed phrase, every tear that falls exactly when you're about to walk away, it all has purpose. If you doubt me, answer this. Who can destroy you more? A stranger who knows nothing about you, or someone who knows the map of your fears, your insecurities, your hidden wounds? That is why misplaced trust is the costliest mistake. Because once she has the keys, the fortress doesn't need to be stormed. It falls from the inside. And here's the disturbing part. Betrayal doesn't always roar. Often it whispers. It shows itself in silences. In looks you can't interpret. In a shift of tone so subtle you wonder if you imagined it. This is psychological warfare. And the weapon isn't violence. It's doubt. Imagine this. You begin to question whether what you saw actually happened. Whether the words that stung your chest were really spoken the way you remember. Whether the memory itself is reliable. That distortion has a name, gaslighting. But notice how insidious it is. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like love correcting you. No, baby, you're wrong. That's not what happened. Let me show you how it really was. And so, little by little, your own memory becomes a battlefield where you lose ground. Not because you lack intelligence, but because the one rewriting the narrative is the person you trust most. Now, pause. Ask yourself, how much of you is truly yourself? And how much is a reflection of the story someone else carefully fed you? Scary thought, isn't it? That perhaps your identity, your decisions, your very sense of reality has been shaped by someone else's script. The danger isn't always the loud, dramatic betrayal. It's the slow erosion, the tiny adjustments, the harmless comments that, brick by brick, reconstruct the walls of your mind until you wake up one day and don't recognize yourself anymore. Because when someone controls your trust, they control your identity. And when your identity is gone, the war is already lost. Now let's peel back another layer. Social masks. You may think your relationship exists between just the two of you, in private. But what if, while she smiles with you in the quiet, she's already building another image of you to show the world? Machiavelli himself once noted that power is not about sincerity, it is about perception. And for someone who understands this game, perception is a sharper blade than any sword. Picture this. In private, she holds your hand. In public, she paints you in a different light. Two faces, two versions, two realities. And when those worlds collide, you begin to wonder, which one is real? That duality is what crushes men most, because when the mask finally falls, you're left reeling, questioning not only her, but every memory you thought was solid. But it goes deeper. Sometimes the sharpest move is projection. She accuses you of the very sins she's committing. She throws guilt at your feet like stones until you start believing the weight belongs to you. And once you carry guilt that isn't yours, you surrender the last weapon you had left, your clarity. Now think back. How many times have you justified behaviors you would never have tolerated from anyone else? How many times have you told yourself, "But I love her, it's different," while swallowing poison disguised as affection? That is the proof. Misplaced trust doesn't just wound you in the present. It buries your judgment, corrodes your strength, and dismantles your dignity. At that point, you're no longer the author of your life. You've become an actor in a play you never wrote. And here's the dark question. What if many of the biggest turns in your story, the jobs you chose, the places you lived, even the friends you cut off, weren't really your choices? What if they were dictated by the subtle choreography of smiles, silences, and whispers you mistook for love? Because the most dangerous power is never the one that shouts. It's the one that whispers. Let's uncover another illusion that enslaves men without chains. The illusion of control. You believe you are the one steering the ship, that the choices you make in love, in trust, in sacrifice are yours, that you are the architect of the relationship, the builder of the bond. But pause for a moment. Look deeper. What if the path you walk was already laid out for you, brick by brick, by someone who knows exactly how to bend your will without ever raising their voice? That's the terrifying beauty of manipulation done well. It doesn't force you. It convinces you that you chose it. A woman skilled in this game doesn't bark orders. She doesn't need to demand. She plants seeds. Seeds so subtle that when they sprout, you swear they were your own ideas. You move the pieces on the board, but every move benefits her. And the worst part? You thank her for it. That's the power of the invisible. It never feels foreign. It feels natural. And because it feels natural, you never question it. Now think of this. What is the most dangerous move? It isn't anger. It isn't open hostility. It's feigned vulnerability. She knows the exact moment to soften her voice, to let a tear escape, to appear fragile, and instantly, your protective instinct roars awake. You feel the need to save her. But here's the trap. The man who focuses on saving someone else stops saving himself. That is where the captivity begins. Not in chains of iron, but in chains of emotion. The strongest prisons are not made of bars. They are built with sweet words, fragile looks, and carefully crafted moments of weakness that bind you more tightly than steel ever could. And if you think this is an exaggeration, let me give you the detail most men overlook: selective memory. A skilled manipulator doesn't need to rewrite your entire story. She only needs to rewrite the parts that matter most. She chooses which moments you remember vividly, which you forget, and which are inflated into legends. She will dramatize one tender night, erase 100 conflicts, and leave you clinging to a handful of glowing memories. Memories that, in truth, aren't reality, but feel more real than anything else. And what rules you is not what is happening now. It is the memory of what she made you record as truth. That's why so many men stay, even when the signs are obvious, because they're not reacting to the present. They're still enslaved by the past carefully designed for them. But the ultimate masterstroke, it's when she makes you doubt yourself, when you no longer trust your own memory, your own judgment, your own sanity, when you find yourself asking, did I really see that? Did I really feel that? Or am I just imagining things? That is gaslighting at its peak. And the cruel part is this: it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like care. It feels like she's guiding you back to the truth. But that truth is her truth, her script, her carefully constructed reality. And the more you accept it, the more you lean on her perspective, until you can no longer stand on your own. Now think, how much of you is truly yours? How many of your thoughts are original, and how many are echoes of what she made you believe? Here comes another brutal revelation. It doesn't take a toxic, explosive relationship to experience this. It can happen in the smallest details, in the way you're made to doubt your worth, in the subtle expectation that you're never enough. Sometimes, it's not the big betrayal that destroys you. It's the drip-by-drip erosion of your self-belief. Until one day, you wake up and realize, you're not the man you once were. You're a shadow, shaped by someone else's hands. And when that happens, there is no battle left to fight, because the moment your identity is gone, the war is already over. Now, let's talk about something darker still, the stage play. Because a skilled player doesn't just argue, she performs. Different roles, different masks, the victim, the confidant, the seductress, the distant one. And here's the cruelest part. She decides which role you meet. You think you're responding freely, but in reality, your reactions were already chosen the moment she selected which version of herself to present. One day you're her savior, the next you're her betrayer, the next you're her only safe place. And you dance to each role like a puppet, pulled by invisible strings. And the exhaustion? That belongs to you, because the one who pulls the strings never tires. Only the puppet does. That's why many men feel drained, broken, hollow. Not because of one big blow, but because of endless small performances that leave them chasing shadows. And the scariest thing? The coldness with which these moves can be executed. Not because there's no feeling, but because feeling and strategy are separated. She can cry while advancing, smile while manipulating, hug you while planning to leave. And you can't tell the difference. That's the battlefield no one prepared you for. There's something uniquely cruel about the mixture of warmth and strategy. Because a man's mind craves coherence. He wants clarity, logic, structure. But the game you're trapped in doesn't operate in straight lines. It operates in circles, masks, and contradictions. And that confusion, that's what breaks you. You're searching for consistency, while she only cares about effectiveness. That's why sometimes a smile hides a trap. Sometimes silence is louder than screams. And sometimes the absence of words is the most powerful weapon of all. Think about silence for a moment. You may believe power is in words, in what's spoken, in what's explained. But silence forces you to fill in the blanks. You start projecting your fears, You reveal your insecurities. You justify yourself endlessly, all while she simply watches, collects information, and stays quiet. Silence is not absence, it is dominance. Now add to that the art of expectation. She doesn't only manipulate what you do, she manipulates what you dream. She paints visions of tomorrow, shows you a perfect future, whispers about a life you could have together. And you, naive, hopeful, buy those visions as if they're certainties. But here's the truth, they are not promises. They are bait. They keep you bound in the present, working, sacrificing, obeying, for a future that may never exist. No one needs to build chains when the prisoner locks himself in. And maybe that's what hurts the most. That the walls holding you in aren't hers, they're yours. Built by your own hopes, your own trust, your own refusal to see. This is why betrayal feels so final. Because it's not just the other person breaking you. It's you realizing that you handed them every tool they needed to do it. And yet, the final trap isn't betrayal, it's guilt. Because once you begin justifying the unjustifiable, once you tell yourself, but I love her, it's different, you have surrendered the last weapon you had, your clarity. You begin to defend your own chains. You begin to see poison as affection. You begin to excuse the very behaviors that are hollowing you out. And when that happens, you are no longer a free man. You are an actor in a play you never auditioned for, repeating lines you didn't write. Now ask yourself, how many of the decisions that shaped your life were truly yours? How many of your choices were guided not by your own will, but by the whispers, silences, and glances you misread as love? That is the terrifying possibility, that perhaps you've been 3 moves behind in a game you never knew you were playing. And here lies the darkest truth of all. The most dangerous enemy does not arrive with a roar. He, or she, arrives with a whisper, because whispers bypass logic. They slide beneath your defenses. They sound like love, but they carve like knives. And in the end, it's not the betrayal itself that destroys you. It's your blindness to the patterns, because betrayal is a single blow. But naivety? That is an eternal chain. So what is the way forward? How do you escape? Not by hatred, not by paranoia, not by distrusting every woman who crosses your path. That is weakness disguised as wisdom. The answer is this: awareness, learning to see the invisible, to read between the lines, to listen not just to what is said, but to what is withheld, to train your mind so that you never hand over the knife with which you could be cut. Because once you see the patterns, you are no longer prey. You become a player. And the difference between the man who falls and the man who dominates is not strength, it is sight. Now, before this ends, I want you to sit with one thought tonight. Are you sure that the person you trust most right now isn't simply playing a role whose script you haven't yet seen? Because sometimes, the scariest masks are not the ones strangers wear. They are the ones worn by those closest to you. And maybe, just maybe, what you thought was safety was the softest, most delicate cage of all. So remember this, the deadliest power is not the one that shouts, but the one that whispers. And if you've listened this far, it means something inside you is already awakening. Something that refuses to remain blind. Guard it, sharpen it, train it. Because the man who opens his eyes is no longer a pawn. He is a player. And from that moment on, he can never be played the same way again.